Welcome to the Past in Pictures channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one.
The Titanic set out for the first time in 1912, representing a milestone in naval engineering because of its luxury and size. Considered the largest passenger ship of the time, the serious incident that happened weeks later revealed limits in maritime safety standards, leading to international reforms that protected passengers and changed navigation. The serious incident involving the ocean liner Andrea Doria and the Swedish ship Stockholm on July 25, 1956, became one of the best-known maritime events of the 20th century. There were 46 losses, but the safe evacuation of 1,134 passengers highlighted advances in rescue protocols and influenced international standards. Sophie Scholl, a student and member of the German resistance during World War II, lost her life at 21 for opposing the German regime, becoming a symbol of the fight for freedom. Her legacy keeps alive the memory of tens of thousands of people affected by similar decisions during that period. William Steig, creator of the iconic character Shrek, poses beside wrestler Maurice Tillet in the 1940s. Tillet, whose distinct appearance caused by acromegaly inspired the animated ogre, deeply shaped popular culture by bringing together sports and fiction, influencing how characters are represented in entertainment. The tradition of Mari Lwyd, celebrated in Llangeweed in 1910, is a centuries-old Welsh Christmas custom involving the figure of a decorated skeletal horse in a door-to-door ritual with singing and verses, symbolizing renewal and hope, while strengthening Welsh cultural identity during social change. The crew of the USS Yorktown prepares to leave the ship in 1942 after it suffered serious damage in the Battle of the Coral Sea during World War II. This episode marked a crucial point in Pacific naval operations, highlighting the courage of the sailors and the strategic impact of the struggle between Americans and Japanese forces. The heavy traffic on the roads toward the Woodstock Festival in 1969 reflected the height of youth counterculture, which sought peace and freedom during the Vietnam War. The event became a historic moment, bringing together hundreds of thousands and strengthening a movement that would influence deep social changes. The airship USS Los Angeles, built in 1926 and a symbol of American air power, faced strong winds that caused a dramatic moment as it turned on its mooring mast in Lakehurst, New Jersey, showing the challenges of aviation and the importance of technological development for safety. Shanhaiguan Pass is the point where the Great Wall of China ends at the sea. This section symbolizes the connection between defense and geography, highlighting the wall's strategic importance in protecting against invasions and controlling trade routes, while leaving a cultural legacy recognized and admired around the world. During World War II, images show an American soldier protecting a Japanese child who needed care from the rain inside an airplane, revealing moments of humanity during an extremely difficult period. This gesture symbolizes the complexity of war, where compassion existed alongside the challenges faced in the Pacific. Robert Wadlow, known as the Gentle Giant, holds the record for tallest height, reaching 8 feet 11 inches before passing away in 1940. In 1937, his height and size 37 AA feet represented the extremes of gigantism, drawing fascination and specialized medical debate. Captain Arthur Rostron, commander of the Carpathia, received a Silver Cup from Titanic survivors in 1912. The recognition honored his fast and heroic response to the emergency, which, during the early morning after the maritime accident, allowed more than 700 people to be rescued and influenced new rescue protocols. After the New York Stock Exchange crash in 1929, known as the Great Depression, workers cleaned the trading floor amid the financial chaos that shook economies worldwide. The event marked the collapse of the market, causing mass unemployment and changes in economic policy in the United States and around the world. Salvador Dalí, a central figure of surrealism, posed in 1969 with his pet anteater, a gesture that illustrated his effort to challenge ordinary reality and provoke the public. The image shows how Dalí combined the eccentric and the bizarre to expand the limits of art in the 20th century. In Iran, in 1890, the enforcement of a severe sentence through artillery was used to impose authority in a context of extremely strict social and political rules. This procedure reflected extreme practices of the time, marking a period when state control was maintained through public displays of power. The removal of the last structure at the Belsen camp in 1945 marked the closing of one of the darkest chapters of World War II. British military personnel held a symbolic ceremony representing the defeat of the German regime and the attempt to close a place of enormous suffering where thousands of people were affected by systematic persecution. Peter Cushing, George Lucas, Carrie Fisher, and David Prowse took part in the production of Star Wars in 1977, a milestone that changed science fiction cinema. The premiere opened a new era in special effects and storytelling, deeply influencing pop culture and the global film industry. Pablo Escobar, one of the most well-known criminal figures in history, celebrated his 31st birthday on December 1st, 1980 at Hacienda Nápoles, a symbol of his power and wealth. The scene records a private moment before the conflicts intensified, shaping Colombia and deeply influencing the country's politics. Flight Officer Christopher F.C. Lee, photographed at the Vatican in 1944, shortly after the liberation of Rome, symbolizes the transition between war and post-war culture. His artistic career, which began 3 years later, became one of the most influential of the 20th century, linking his military experience to his cultural role. In 1923, the effectiveness of early protective vests represented an advance for police officers and members of security forces. A close-range demonstration showed that this technology could protect its users, influencing future designs and increasing safety during urban operations. Inflatable tanks were used by the Allies in 1945 in England as part of an elaborate deception plan to confuse the Germans about the true goals of the Normandy invasion. This strategy was crucial to the success of the landings, reducing German resistance and speeding the end of the war. In 1926, the seizure of a truck carrying prohibited products reveals the tensions of the Prohibition era in the United States, when the production and sale of those goods were banned. Enforcement intensified the fight against underground trade, affecting illegal groups and marking an important chapter in Prohibition history. John Lennon and Chuck Berry, two rock legends, appear in 1972 sharing the stage, a moment that symbolizes the connection between the roots of rock and roll and its evolution. This meeting represented the 1970s movement honoring Berry's pioneering role, reinforcing his lasting influence on global music culture. Tourists in the early 20th century visit the majestic Pyramid of Khufu, one of the seven wonders of the ancient world, looking out over the vast Sahara Desert at sunset. This moment symbolizes Europe's deep fascination with ancient Egypt, which drove archaeological studies and intense interest in Egypt. Erika Seals, a participant in the Hungarian Revolution of 1956, represents the spirit of resistance against Soviet control during that decisive November. The uprising sought political freedom and civil rights, but it was forcefully stopped, leaving deep marks on the fight for democracy and on international relations during the Cold War. In San Francisco, protests in 1969 marked the feminist fight against oppressive standards, including the rejection of the bra as a symbol of bodily freedom in opposition to existing norms. This mobilization pushed debates about women's rights and bodily autonomy, influencing the global social movement. The Hitler Youth Guard in front of the funeral urns of 5 English students affected by an accident in the Black Forest in 1936 symbolizes the tense moment between Germany and the United Kingdom. The episode revealed political differences and the attempt to turn delicate events into propaganda, shaping relations before World War II. German soldiers pushed fake tanks in 1925, a tactic used to mislead enemies about the real strength of the army after the Treaty of Versailles. This strategy shows the restrictions placed on Germany and the attempt to work around military limits, influencing preparations for future conflicts. The Mission Beach Beauty Contest, held in San Diego in July 1982, reflected the cultural trends of the 1980s, shaped by swimsuits and the look of the time. The event helped popularize local contests as seaside entertainment, strengthening tourism in California and highlighting youth culture. The electric car parked at a charging station in the United States in 1919 represents the early use of electric vehicles, which competed with gasoline-powered automobiles. Although promising at the time, they did not become popular, but they opened the way for innovation and advances in sustainable transportation in the 20th century. In 1950, the White House went through a complete and deep renovation that demolished its original interior, while keeping only the original outer structure. This milestone was essential for preserving the building of American power, ensuring greater safety and modernization without losing its historic architectural and political value. In the 1940s, the iron lung became vital equipment in the treatment of polio, a disease that caused paralysis and breathing failure. This machine helped patients, especially children, breathe by simulating respiration, representing a crucial advance in medicine and intensive care at the time. John "Jammy" Reynolds became known in 1910 as the Human Fly in New York for his performances on building fronts, done without modern protective equipment, symbolizing the search for adventure and urban daring in the industrial age. His courage marked early records of urban climbing and impressed many people. In the early 20th century, images of men with elastic skin drew fascination and were shown at fairs and performances. These demonstrations fed popular imagination and contributed to scientific debates about skin elasticity and disease, marking the transition from entertainment to medical observation. Zorita, a performer of the 1930s, stood out for shows that combined dance and snake handling, challenging taboos about exotic animals and entertainment. In 1939, her image with a snake became a symbol of an era fascinated by the exotic and dangerous, influencing popular culture and the modern circus. Sigourney Weaver stood out for playing Lieutenant Ripley in the Alien franchise, which began in 1979 and changed science fiction cinema by presenting a powerful female lead. The image with the Cat Jonesy symbolizes independent female characters and influenced discussions about gender and entertainment. Richard Nixon left the White House on August 9, 1974, becoming the first president of the United States to resign because of the Watergate scandal. This event became a historic milestone in American politics by clearly exposing the limits of presidential power and strengthening democratic oversight in the country. Raquel Welch and Ringo Starr, icons of the 1960s, appeared together in 1969, a period of major cultural revolution. Welch, a symbol of beauty and cinema, and Starr, the drummer for the Beatles, represent the energy of the pop movement that transformed music and deeply influenced the youth of the time. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, former First Lady of the United States, was photographed on July 31, 1976, operating the Staten Island Ferry in New York. This image symbolizes her personal and professional reinvention after the tragedy in the Kennedy family, highlighting her public and private life during the complex 1970s. Elvis Presley in Memphis in 1956, beside the Messerschmitt bubble car, symbolizes a pop culture milestone of the 1950s. The singer, a rock icon, was strengthening his influence while compact European vehicles sparked curiosity in the United States. This meeting reflects cultural exchange and the beginning of automotive modernization. McSorley's Old Ale House, founded in 1854, became a historic symbol in New York by welcoming soldiers returning from World War II, offering community and return to normal life after the conflict. Active since the 19th century, the bar represents cultural endurance and social bonds during rebuilding. Soldiers on the front lines of the Korean War in 1952 sent Happy New Year wishes, showing resilience and humanity amid intense conflict. This war became a major turning point in the Cold War, maintaining the division of the Korean Peninsula and influencing global tensions for decades to come. 300,000 Parisians gathered on the Champs-Élysées in May 1968 to support President Charles de Gaulle during a period of major social demonstrations in France. This act marked a decisive moment amid student and worker strikes that pressured the government and deeply transformed French society. During World War I, the use of protective equipment was essential to prepare workers for possible threats, even in tasks like peeling onions and potatoes. At Camp Kearney in San Diego in 1918, this precaution reflected concern about dangerous substances and the adaptation of military routine to new technological challenges. A French inmate from the early 20th century displayed tattoos covering his body, including a mustache drawn on the skin, a common practice among members of the penal system to mark identity and position within the group. These tattoos symbolized fatalism and bad luck, reflecting the difficult conditions and marginalization experienced by these people. Eisteddfod is an annual festival in Wales that celebrates Welsh literature, language, and culture, becoming established in the 19th century as a milestone of national revival. Inspired by Druid tradition, it strengthened cultural identity and linguistic pride in the face of Anglicization, leaving a legacy in the preservation of Welsh heritage. The line for meals at a New York restaurant in 1932 reflects the crisis of the Great Depression, when millions faced unemployment and struggled to get food. The sign offers 20 meals under specific conditions, symbolizing solidarity in the effort to support vulnerable populations in the United States during that decade. The mechanical slot machines at the Mint Casino in Las Vegas in the 1950s marked the rise of gambling as popular entertainment in the United States. This period was crucial to the industry's development, turning Las Vegas into an important tourist and economic center in the country. The presentation of the portable manual dishwasher in 1929 marked an advance in household routines, especially for young women seeking innovation and convenience to make repetitive tasks easier. This invention contributed to the evolution of home appliances and changes in domestic work. The Terex 3319 Titan, built in 1973, was the world's largest mining truck for 25 years, measuring about 66 feet, 11 inches long, and marking 20th century heavy engineering. Its creation changed the transport of large volumes of rock, increasing efficiency in large-scale mineral extraction. Debbie Fields, founder of Mrs. Fields Cookies in 1983, changed the handmade cookie market in the United States by creating a brand that valued fresh, homemade-style products. Her innovative business boosted the sale of handmade treats, influenced habits, and established a franchise model. Wax figures damaged and recovered after a major incident in 1925 illustrate the serious consequences of what happened, which affected valuable collections and exposed the fragility of cultural preservation at the time. The episode reinforced the urgency of advances in the safety and conservation of museums and exhibitions. The column of the Saint-Lazare de Vallon Church from the 12th century is a landmark of medieval architecture in France, highlighting carvings and interwoven patterns typical of the Romanesque style. It reflects the importance of religious buildings in the cultural and social consolidation of medieval Europe, preserving influential techniques. The activity of washing and panning for gold in Rockerville, Dakota, in 1889, marked a chapter of the gold rush in the American West, driving migration and economic development. This moment showed the manual extraction of resources as a source of wealth and social change in a setting of challenges and hopes. John C. H. Grabble recorded the processing of cattle hides around 1887, a common practice on the United States frontier in the 19th century. This reflects rural life and the cattle economy during a period of disputes between settlers and indigenous communities, showing the tensions that shaped westward expansion. Three people pose in front of a sod house, typical of pioneer buildings in the 19th century United States, symbolizing settlers' efforts to adapt to harsh environments. This rustic home represents the difficult conditions of westward expansion and marks a crucial stage of North American settlement. The Palisade Railroad Station in Nevada in the 1870s symbolizes the expansion of transportation and the economy in the American West, connecting remote communities and supporting the trade of minerals and timber. This infrastructure was vital to regional development and territorial integration. Between 1870 and 1880, indigenous leaders in Texas resisted the advance of American settlers and the actions of the federal government, seeking to preserve their lands and traditions in the face of displacement policies. This resistance marked an important chapter in indigenous history, showing territorial disputes and deep cultural changes. Soldiers say goodbye before leaving for World War II, a moment filled with deep emotion and anxiety that marked the start of a global conflict between 1939 and 1945. These farewells symbolized sacrifice and the hope of return amid the mobilization that changed world geopolitics and history. Charlie Chaplin, an icon of silent film, appears in 1926, dressed as Napoleon Bonaparte, a tribute that reveals his interest in historical figures while also bringing humor and social criticism into his work. His influence shaped world culture and cinema, emphasizing comedy and social reflection. Rita Hayworth, a film icon of the 1940s, appeared on magazine covers such as CoverGirl in 1944, establishing herself as a symbol of glamour and femininity during Hollywood's golden age. Her image influenced popular culture and reinforced beauty standards that shaped fashion and entertainment during that period. Marlene Dietrich was an iconic German actress and singer who stood out between the 1930s and 1950s, becoming a symbol of glamour and cultural resistance. Her career went beyond film, turning her into a voice against the German regime and an international star who influenced fashion and 20th century pop culture. Elizabeth Taylor, a movie icon of the 1950s, became a major Hollywood star by leading memorable films. Her beauty and talent helped drive the American film industry after the war, influencing cultural trends and shaping the image of the glamorous woman in global media. Elizabeth Taylor was one of the greatest film stars of the 1950s, becoming a true icon of beauty and unmatched talent. In 1954, her image represented the golden age of classic cinema, influencing beauty standards and pop culture while also leaving a strong impact on fashion worldwide. James Dean and Elizabeth Taylor attended the Texas State Fair in 1955, at the height of 1950s American pop culture and cinema, in a vibrant atmosphere full of expectation. This meeting symbolized the growing influence of celebrities on entertainment and social trends. The Indonesian pop band Dara Puspita gained international attention by performing psychedelic rock in the 1970s, marking an Asian presence in a scene dominated by Western groups. In 1971, while performing in London, they challenged gender and cultural norms, opening the way for future female artists. Rosanna Caton gained attention for acting in the 1974 film The Swinging Cheerleaders, which reflected youth culture and the social tensions of the decade in the United States. The film addressed feminism and personal freedom, marking changes in women's roles in society and cinema and expanding the debate about freedom and identity. Penny Irving stood out between the 1960s and 1970s as a symbol of fashion and youth culture, representing a movement that challenged strict and traditional social norms. She and her friends wore short shorts and tall boots, reflecting the spirit of change and the search for new cultural values during that period. Dick Van Dyke, an actor and comedian from the golden age of American television, stood out in the 1950s and 1960s with his unmistakable charm and many-sided talent. His influence on television comedy and pop culture helped establish the sitcom as mass entertainment, leaving a lasting and inspiring legacy. The popularity of Oxford bags pants in the 1930s transformed men's college fashion at the University of Oxford, where the baggy style symbolized rebellion and comfort, standing against stiff clothing. This change influenced men's fashion, making room for casual and relaxed clothing. A Muslim woman from Hami, in the Xinjiang region of China, was photographed in 1875 wearing traditional clothing that reflects Uyghur culture and identity in Central Asia. This image helps explain cultural diversity and traditions preserved during the major social changes of the 19th century. In Rotterdam, Netherlands, in 1937, the tradition of eating raw herring reveals part of the local food culture. Street sales of the fish were tied to popular habits in everyday European life before World War II, symbolizing the value of culinary traditions during a period of social and economic change. English player Ted Drake became remembered in 1938 after being taken off the field when he became unwell and then returning to finish the match, before today's evaluation and substitution protocols in soccer. This historic episode showed the challenges faced by athletes and influenced changes in sports safety standards. The 1880 photograph highlights a woman in formal clothing, showing the strict social standards of the 19th century. The English text suggests a Western context and recognizes female intellectual curiosity, which was beginning to question the limits of Victorian society and foreshadow future social change. Olive pickers in Sicily are a traditional part of the island's rural economy, going back centuries. Olive cultivation is essential to Mediterranean agriculture, producing olive oil, a foundation of local food and culture. This activity symbolizes the link between manual labor and regional identity. The crew of B-17 42-32109, known as the Mizpah crew, actively took part in air missions during World War II, facing extremely difficult conditions. 2 members were captured and 2 others did not return, showing the major challenges faced by Allied airmen during the conflict. Edward Llewellyn became known for catching the world record 425-pound black sea bass in Catalina, California, a major achievement for sport fishing in the early 20th century. This event highlighted the enormous size of species in the region and boosted growing interest in deep sea fishing. Mary Pickford starred in the silent film Through the Back Door in 1921, a work that highlighted childhood innocence and a moral lesson. This film reflected the beginning of mass narrative cinema, establishing Pickford as a cultural icon and influencing how stories were told in film at the time. On the streets of New York's Lower East Side around 1910, a hand organ player represented popular entertainment and a way of making a living among immigrants and residents. This scene reflects the economic hardship and cultural diversity of the time, marking a moment of rapid urbanization and social tension. The 1889 photograph shows a boy and his dog in front of a rustic, grass-roofed house, reflecting rural life in the 19th century. The image highlights the close and affectionate bond between children and animals in the countryside, emphasizing simple traditions and direct contact with nature. The family from the Ozark Mountains in Arkansas represents simple and self-sufficient rural life in the early 20th century United States, when isolated communities lived off the land and kept local traditions. This reality reflected agricultural work and the cultural endurance that shaped the region and the country's rural identity. American soldiers speak with a member of the Swiss Guard in 1944 during World War II, when Swiss neutrality contrasted with the conflicts around it. The Guard, a symbol of papal protection, reinforced Switzerland's importance as a safe refuge and strategic point in Europe. Students at a school in Stockholm in 1908 represent the expansion of public education in Sweden, which greatly widened access to basic schooling in the early 20th century. This policy contributed to a more literate and equal society, influencing the country's social and economic progress. Young people have fun with an old phone booth in 1959 when this equipment was the main form of public communication. The record shows how children interacted with the technology available, symbolizing daily life before the spread of home telephones and digital communication. 3 generations of women in front of a typical rural stone house in Ireland in 1927 symbolize endurance in agricultural life during the transition into the 20th century, when the preservation of family traditions in rural areas faced major social and economic changes from modernization. The typing training exam of the 1960s marked the professionalization of secretarial and administrative work, which was essential in the pre-digital era. This training increased business efficiency and expanded opportunities for women, reflecting social changes in women's roles and in corporate organization. A chess class in Pskov, in the Soviet Union in 1975, shows how the regime valued the game as an educational tool, developing discipline, logical thinking, and strategy in children. This contributed to the success of Soviet chess players, making chess a cultural symbol during the Cold War. Victorian portraits reflect the detailed look of the 19th century, marked by ornate clothing such as puffed sleeves and delicate lace that expressed status and the fashion of the time. These studio images captured social and artistic traditions that influenced photography into the 20th century. In the early 20th century, French women's fashion reflected the elegance of the Belle Époque, with long dresses and decorated hats recorded in the 1910s. This style marked the transition toward greater freedom and social expression for women, deeply influencing later global trends. The entrance to a circus show in France in 1920 symbolizes the popularity of traveling performing arts after World War I, when touring shows offered accessible entertainment. This cultural form strengthened social bonds and responded to the economic and social instability of the time. The introduction of the washing machine in Ohio in 1911 was a crucial technological advance for rural domestic life in the United States, easing women's intense labor and transforming cleaning practices. This innovation sped up on home modernization and allowed social changes by freeing time for other activities. In 1931, men in formal clothing took part in a lively and unexpected snowball fight in Trafalgar Square in London, creating a rare moment of fun during the severe Great Depression. This episode shows how society looked for relief and unity in the face of serious economic hardship. Madrid's Gran Via in 1956 was an important cultural and commercial axis in post-war Spain, when the country sought modernization under the Franco regime. The avenue, filled with automobiles and pedestrians, reflected urban effort and partial economic growth during the period, despite political restrictions. Life magazine, launched in 1936, was an important milestone in documentary photography and visual journalism in the United States, showing everyday images from the Great Depression through World War II. Its impact deeply influenced the way visual stories were told in media and 20th century popular culture. Bill Russell and Muhammad Ali, icons of sports and the civil rights struggle, were photographed together in the 1960s, a period marked by intense movements for racial equality in the United States. Their paths went beyond sports, driving debates about social justice and protests against racial segregation. Photographer John Adams captured models wearing patchwork clothing in the late 1960s, reflecting hippie fashion that valued reused fabrics and creative expression. This look resisted consumerism and influenced contemporary fashion with ideas of sustainability and freedom.